Hey guys, Mr. Terhar here with your e-learning lesson for April the 13th. We're going to shift focus just a little bit. Over the last several days, we've been talking about diesel engines and the function of diesel engines and that type of thing. We're going to basically move from diesel engines into actual farm equipment. That's, the equipment that's powered by those diesel engines. And we're going to talk today about the different types of tractors that are available. We're going to talk about some terms that some of you are probably very familiar with, but others maybe aren't. And we're going to talk about, basically how we take the power that those diesel engines generate and we apply it, and we basically use it to accomplish a certain job. Okay, which is what we're trying to do around the farm. So we're going to talk about the different types of tractors and that exist, and talk about some things that we consider when we are selecting the right type of tractor or farm equipment for a given job. So our objectives, I should say, we're going to identify the different types of tractors and what their uses are. We're going to identify the components that influence tractor selection, and then we're going to understand the management techniques that we utilize to ensure tractor efficiency. So let's dive into our types of tractors that exist. The first type of tractor is a four-wheel drive tractor. We've all probably seen a tractor like this in the fields. Um, Basically, they have power supplied to all four wheels, or I'm sorry, well, more than four wheels, but basically the front and the rear wheels, I should say. Uh, and that four-wheel drive gives increased traction and pulling power. So we'll use tractors like this for tillage or seeding. Um, and the reason why is because tillage requires a high degree of torque. You're pulling a piece of tillage equipment through the field. It's being pulled through the soil. It's having to break that soil up, and that obviously requires a great amount of torque in order to accomplish that. And the idea behind having several tires is that decreases compaction while increasing your traction. So it distributes the weight more evenly, which helps reduce compaction on the soil, but also having more tires in contact with the ground increases your traction and your pulling power as well. These tractors commonly will reticulate in the middle, meaning that their steering isn't traditional steering where when you turn the wheels, the front tires turn, steer whichever way you want to go. A lot of times they will actually bend in the middle, and that's the way that they will turn. Next type of tractor is a row crop tractor. This is the type of tractor that most people probably think of when they imagine a tractor. It's the most common type of agricultural tractor used for several different applications. Could be used for row cropping, pulling a planter or something like that. Could be used for hay operations and some tillage practices. Uh, you see more and more people going to four-wheel drive tractors for tillage, though, just because the size of the tillage implements that we have today is so wide and so big that you kind of require that extra power and that extra torque a lot of times to pull those implements. But we can use them for some tillage as well. There are high clearance tractors, and you don't see them as much as you used to, but there used to be, they called them high crop tractors, and they would be, on very, very tall tires and mounted up high. And basically, the idea was to get them up high enough to where they wouldn't damage the crop. Think about how tall corn gets or how tall even beans can get. The idea of a high crop tractor was to get the tractor up higher so that you could drive through that crop when it was a little taller and not create any damage. Things like sunflowers, you still see that as well. Uh, Basically, uh, front wheel drive tractors, okay, are another type of tractor. They're designed to assist the rear wheels with traction and allow a more versatile use of the tractor as well. This is the type of tractor that is getting more and more popular. You're starting to see these on a fairly frequent basis. That's a track tractor. And the idea is that that tractor will use uh, a rubber track instead of a wheel. And the idea behind that is that you're decreasing compaction. Once again, you're taking the weight of that tractor and you're distributing it over a larger area of the soil. It would be kind of like, if I were to, well, for example, if I were to take one, uh, you know, plastic cup, okay, and set it on the ground and tell you to stand on top of that cup, what's going to happen to that cup? If you put all your weight on that one cup, it's going to break that cup. It's going to shatter it. But if I were to take, let's say, 100 cups and set them close together on the ground and tell you to lay, okay, on those 100 cups, there's a good chance that those cups wouldn't break because what's happening is we're taking your weight, your mass, and we're distributing it more evenly over a wider area. It's not putting so much pressure on one cup, it's distributing that pressure evenly across several cups. And that's kind of the same concept here. Uh, and these tractors are used for all kinds of different applications. They're great for tillage, row crop usage, planting. Um, they're really starting to catch on in terms of popularity. A utility tractor. Utility tractors are smaller tractors. They're used for smaller jobs around the farm. And typically larger farms will have a utility tractor or two around just to do odd things around the farm. And it's common to, um, put a front end loader on that tractor just to give it a little more practicality, whether you're using that front end loader to scoop manure or you're using it to, you know, um, move gravel or lime or anything else around. Utility tractors are very, very commonly used just for small jobs around the farm, something that you don't need a big, four-wheel drive tractor or track tractor. That's where utility tractors are very common. And then we have, just kind of some of our miscellaneous types of tractors, lawn and garden tractors, lawn mowers, orchard tractors. You don't see a lot of orchard tractors in this part of the world, but um, I encourage you to Google orchard tractors if you get a chance. They're kind of neat looking. They're lower profile tractors that set lower to the ground, and they'll actually have shields around their fenders. And the idea is that that tractor is, intended for use in some sort of an orchard. Well, when you're driving through that orchard, you got to consider you're probably going to have some low-hanging branches, and you don't want the tires or the wheels of that tractor to bump into those branches and damage any fruit or nuts or whatever you're growing on those trees. So they'll actually cover up the wheels of that tractor with a very, very large fender to prevent that from happening. And then compact tractors used for home usage. A lot of people, if they have, a few acres that they keep up, they'll have a compact tractor just to either mow with or have for other jobs around their yard. So the components of a tractor, and we can't overstate the importance of an owner's manual. An owner's manual is the single most important piece of an agriculture machine, and it provides vital information about how to operate that piece of equipment, how to maintain that piece of equipment, service intervals and when to do oil changes and how to upkeep that tractor, and then very important safety information. An owner's manual is vital. And if you own a piece of equipment, own a tractor, and don't have an owner's manual to go with it, I'd encourage you to try to find or track down an owner's manual. There are companies that actually sell owner's manuals for older tractors. So if you have maybe a tractor from the 1960s that you're using that you have no idea where the owner's manual is, you can actually buy a reprinted version of that owner's manual to go with that tractor. And that's definitely something worth considering. Obviously, the engine of the tractor is where we get our power. You know, in modern day agriculture, diesel engines are uh, the preferred power unit because of the reasons that we've obviously talked about a lot in this class. Better lugging ability, better fuel efficiency, longevity, and less maintenance. Then we have the powertrain. And the powertrain is ultimately what takes the power generated in the engine and uh, puts that power to the ground and harnesses that power into something useful. And there are several components to that powertrain. You've got the clutch, transmission, the final drive, and the differential. The clutch is the vital link in the powertrain. It's what connects and disconnects power between the engine and the transmission. The clutch is, what allows you to harness and control the power generated by the engine. Without the clutch, okay, we would just, as soon as we turn the tractor on, as soon as we start the tractor up, it would take off, and the only way to stop that tractor would be to shut it off. We wouldn't be able to, run that tractor and control when the tractor's moving, when it's not moving, control its speed. The clutch is the vital link in the chain. Kind of think about the clutch like a light switch, right? There's a reason why every time we want to turn off a light in a room, we don't have to go to the breaker box and kill the entire uh, power supply. Well, because we have a light switch, we can just flip one switch that kills the lights in one room. The clutch is kind of like the light switch between the engine and the powertrain. The transmission, it lets the operator select a proper ground speed for a particular job. And the transmission is important because it gives us options in terms of speed. Different jobs around the farm are going to require different speeds. If I'm pulling a planter, I can only pull that planter as quickly as that planter can keep up with me in terms of spacing the seeds correctly. I've got to run at a particular speed across the ground in order to allow that planter to do what it's supposed to do. And a tractor is going to have several gears to choose from. It's going to have gears that are geared higher, so that you can achieve faster speeds. So when you're driving down the road, you can go faster. And then it's going to have lower gears. And lower gears are going to come in handy when you really need to maximize your torque and your lugging power. So that transmission is important because it lets you select the speed, the ground speed for a particular job. The final drive is the last connection between the transmission and the axle or tire. So the final drive is the output from the transmission to the axle, and it's actually what's turning the axle or the tire. And then finally, the differential. The differential is providing the axle speed. So there are three different terms that we utilize to measure the power of a tractor. And if you look at the specs of a tractor, they will give you uh, usually at least two of these in terms of what type of power to expect. There's drawbar power, power takeoff power, and brake power. We're going to get into these in more detail later on, but just a quick summary. Drawbar power is the power of the tractor to pull. So the drawbar is the part of the tractor that we're going to hitch to an implement. So if we're pulling let's say we're pulling a tillage implement, okay, we hook that implement to the drawbar of the tractor. Drawbar power refers to the amount of horsepower located at that drawbar. How much horsepower does this tractor have in terms of the ability to pull something? That's drawbar power. Power takeoff power, that refers to the power takeoff shaft. At the back of every tractor, there's going to be a shaft that sticks out. That shaft can be connected to different implements. So a manure spreader, for example. Manure spreaders, the modern ones anyway, are powered by power takeoff, and that shaft turns. The engine powers that shaft. It turns that shaft, and as that shaft rotates, it can power a variety of different implements. Okay? All right, we'll go ahead and stop there today. Tomorrow we will pick up talking about these different types of power and the comparisons between them. You do have questions to answer on our lesson today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to try to answer those for you. But if I don't hear from you, have a great day, and I will talk to you again on Wednesday.